Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 16. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here for this Friday show. Dave, the Pittsburgh Steelers keeping us really busy after the initial 53-man roster was set, and that's why we always caution it is just an initial 53 with several roster moves being made over the last couple of days. Of course, the practice squad still being formed, new names and more names to be added to it. So a lot to discuss today. How you doing?
Doing good. And we had two exciting college football games last night. Both Pitt and Penn State in action, nail biters there towards the end for both of them. Gus Johnson calling the late game, the Penn State game. That's always generally entertaining for a caller or 12 during a game such as that. And college football, welcome back. We missed you, right? I mean, and then obviously going to get into a heavy schedule, I think, tonight and tomorrow and Sunday is just it's that time of year again. The weather should be turning out here in Vegas pretty soon. Another probably 10 or 12 days for that to happen. So start getting a little bit of that early hint of football weather out here. But yeah, you're right. We got a lot to talk about and kind of stuff. Our listeners have got to be some of the most educated Steeler fan listeners in the world, right? Because we prepare them for damn near everything, and there's going to be a lot of chalk, as they say, is that we're going to talk about today. But all right, let's get after it.
Yeah, let's talk about it, and let's talk about the big moves that were made yesterday that affected the 53-man roster. Before we discuss practice squad, Pittsburgh making several of them, 2 players headed to injured reserve, meaning they'll miss at least the first 4 games of the year. That is rookie wide receiver Calvin Austin and safety Damontae Kazee. We knew that Kazee was going to land there. He's very likely to miss more than the minimum of 4 games. Hopefully come back maybe by about mid-season or so, maybe a bit earlier than that. Austin was a name to watch. Weren't quite sure if he was going to go. Knew he'd be a candidate with that foot injury suffered the day before the Steelers' first preseason game. He's yet to practice since. And so Austin and Kazee going to IR in their place. The turnaround players, the guys we've been talking about for about a week now, in Marcus Allen and Trent Scott. So Allen, although he had to go through waivers, and typically the team does not use the go-around method with waiver or non-vested players, but because Allen's salary was so high, because he had been hurt all summer, really a slim chance that he would get claimed. He was, of course, not claimed, and now he's back on the 53, and ditto with Pat Meyer favorite Trent Scott. Scott and Meyer worked together for basically Scott's entire NFL career. So, again, as you said, these things to me were wholly expected. They were part of my initial or my roster prediction when I made it before cut-down date, that this would be the way this thing would go. Austin, Kazee to IR, Allen, Scott returning, and that's what officially happened yesterday.
Absolutely, it did. And kudos to you and kudos to us. And look, this was outside of the injured guys, and not knowing which ones might exactly need to go to IR, because there was a handful of them, but I think some pictures coming out, thankfully, on the Steelers website the last couple of days helped in that and all. But has there been a more predictable, obviously you're not going to predict the trades, but take the trades out. Has there been a more predictable 50 or 51, however you want to frame it? Because the one I had wrong was Sims, and I think you only missed the two trades, right?
I essentially also had Elijah Riley on my 53, and he's now on the practice squad. So that was like the only thing I really missed in terms of non-trade related stuff. And we knew this team was going to explore help at edge and along the offensive line. Didn't know what form that would come, trade, waiver wire claim, etc. But we knew there'd be help added there. I mean, that was a pretty obvious thing to make, or a statement to say. So sure, I think generally speaking, the things Pittsburgh's done has been really predictable. So we're off to a good start predicting the Omar Khan, Andy Weidl era.
Yeah, and when we get into talking about some of the practice squad too, there's going to be some more chalk to kind of throw around there, because a lot of familiar names that we've talked about, kind of in, obviously they weren't drafted, but in passing as part of the pre-draft process, and several of the reports that you do, like the what they look for kind of things. But back to the 53. We knew Trent Scott was coming back. We're both not huge fans of that happening, but and BFF confirmed for sure now. If there was any doubt between Pat Meyer and Trent Scott, and I guess this kind of answers a few more questions here about, we were talking about the position for Jesse Davis along those lines as well too. I mean, this kind of, at least in my head, kind of puts a confirmation on a few of the things that we talked about on the show the other day. Now, Mike Tomlin has since said, could we potentially see any more trades? And yeah, we're always open to more trades. It's business season, so we'll see if indeed that happens. But I mean, quite honestly, there's now, based on everything that has happened with where this 53 is right now, there only appears to be, in my look at this, one player that could potentially, be cuttable if they were to bring in somebody, let's say like another offensive lineman.
And who would that be?
Kendrick Green.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's going to stay. I mean, we'll see. But at this point, I'm under the impression and assumption that the bulk of the Steelers roster moves have been made. And generally speaking, with maybe one exception that you're referencing, the group that's on the team now will be the group going to Cincinnati week 1. And while I don't know what Green's role is going to be, I feel like he will be on this roster.
Inactive.
That's probably fair. I mean, whenever you made the comment about Jesse Davis's role, can you expand on that and what you think exactly that is based off the Trent Scott go-around move?
Yeah, well, I mean, Trent Scott's not going to play any guard for you, right? Or shouldn't.
Right.
Trent Scott's going to dress week 1, right?
Well, that was going to be my question is, yeah, you have, 9 offensive linemen on this team right now? You're going to have 8 on game day, so you're assuming Green's going to be odd man out? I
would. I mean... Okay. We had the conversation. I got more pushback on it than I thought I would. But at this point, do you view Jesse Davis as more? Look, he can play both. Obviously, he can play all 4 positions on the line. Mm-hmm. But if you at this very moment, assuming your starting 5 was what it is, which is Dan Moore, Kevin Dotson, Mason Cole, James Daniels, and Chikwama Okorafor. If that's your 5, which should be your 5, barring any injuries in practice or anything, if one of your guards goes down, who are you choosing to be the next guy in the game?
Jesse Davis.
That is, you would be correct, sir. Or at least,
what do I win?
Jesse Davis, and look, I'm not a huge fan of the signing. I think I've made that clear at this point. But Jesse Davis is now to me, looking at the tape, is your 3rd best guard on this team right now.
Yeah, here's the way that I kind of view the backup at each spot. The backup left tackle to Dan Moore's Trent Scott. The backup left guard to Kevin Dotson. In-game would be Jesse Davis. If there's a long-term thing, you'd have to see if they would turn to Davis or Kendrick Green. I think we'd probably say go with Jesse Davis at this point, but I think in-game, Davis was obviously going to get a hat on game day. Green may not, and so we'll call Davis the de facto backup left guard. backup center to Mason Cole, J.C. Hodgson. Now we're backup right guard to James Daniels, still Jesse Davis, backup right tackle to a core for either. It could be Trent Scott. I'll lean that it's Jesse Davis. But that's generally the way I kind of view the backups right now.
All right. I view it slightly different. I'm willing to bet that if Chukwuma Okorafor went down, it would be Trent Scott, because you don't want either. You don't want either of them.
Right.
Can you punt there? Can you put, I don't know,
Four.
You
put Gentry there. Just
put
right
Zach Gentry at right tackle.
That's happened before. I think the Falcons had to use Toilolo at tight end or at right tackle one time when they had a bunch of injuries.
At least you'd have a better reason for things going south.
Yeah, right. I mean, Davis does have more, I think, recent experience at right tackle, because I know he played there. I mean, he kind of switched between guard and tackle with Miami last year, but I could see Davis being the backup there.
Right. Well, look, I mean, I rattled off the snaps as part of the terrible take yesterday. Where was it? I don't think I have it in front of me right now.
He's been predominantly a right side player. Right guard, right tackle is where the majority of his snaps
I think those were the top two, and then left tackle was the third most, and the drop off was huge. Like,
right.
To down to like 300 and, I don't know, 80 something. Oh, here it is. It is Davis has logged 2,212 snaps at right tackle, 1,863 at right guard. And then, boy, you want to talk about a drop off, 348 snaps at left tackle and 323 at left guard there. His best position of the four is left guard.
Right. Which is where he was primarily working in the summer, I believe you said, in Minnesota.
Right. And that's probably why they went that way. And that explains all 29 of his preseason snaps coming at guard. 21 of those 29 came at left guard. Now, obviously, that's not a lot of snaps to look at, but when you go back and look at his tape and some of his other snaps there across the board over the years, I've come to the conclusion that left guard is his single best spot. And then I think right guard is his second best spot. And then I would say right tackle and then left tackle. But I don't think anybody listening to this wants to see him play either tackle spot there. But back to the 53. And if you're dressing 8, I think you absolutely have to dress Jesse Davis as one of them. And now the real question, and that goes back to really the first thing that I said, Kendrick Green can't play center. Well, he can in case of emergency, I guess. He hasn't taken any right guard snaps that we know of. Right. This is a one position player on your roster at this point. That's how bad this has gotten with him. You're hanging on for dear life that he can at least maybe do something at the left guard position, learn that, be able to succeed at that, and then maybe start, expanding his profile. I know why they don't want to put him at right guard. They want him to at least try to master left guard, the position he played at college right now. So my thought was, and back to what I said there, if this team were to make a trade right now, and it be an offensive lineman, he would have to be the one that goes off the roster, I think.
Sure. Again, we made this point last week, is if Green's your backup, what's his role? What's his value? He is third string center. He's never played right guard. He's functionally third string left guard, because you would imagine in game, Davis is going to get the hat over Green, going to get the snaps over Kendrick Green. I'm going to get all smart and scientific with my big public school education on you, Dave.
Oh Lord, you're trying to
hold on.
You're trying to take a shot at me here on my education is what this really is.
We'll see. We'll see how this one goes.
I see how this one's going to go.
Kendrick Green is at the event horizon. The event horizon is the point where you get close enough to a black hole that you cannot return, where you will be sucked in by its gravitational pull and there is no turning back. We are at the event horizon with Kendrick Green. There is no turning back. The Steelers are hanging on for dear life, trying to pretend like it's okay. We'll make it work. It's not going to work with Kendrick Green. And that may not be entirely his fault. Again, I think Pittsburgh misevaluated him coming out. They remember Tomlin saying they wanted a day one ready NFL center. a guy who's experienced and all that. And Green was the opposite of all. He was, a project and a pretty raw dude. And so I think Pittsburgh really, as you said, square peg and round holes. But there is no turning back with Kendrick Green. This team will hold on to him, I think, for a little while. I don't ever see him becoming a valuable player to this team in a meaningful way.
All right. Now, what is that all called? An event horizon?
The event horizon, the point of, I believe so. Wikipedia, I'm trusting on that one. Okay. But I believe that is when you get so close that you cannot return from the,
yeah, dude. I don't know what all you said, but is that Freedom Rock? Turn it up.
That's probably a sentence you said back in your day.
more than once. I feel you on that for sure. At some point in the near future here, they're going to have to take the L on this and take the loss and move on. We'll see if they're able to. I mean, at this point, with Jesse Davis on board right now at this point, and with, obviously J.C. Hassenauer, you don't want him to play guard unless it's in case of emergency. But if this team were to add another offensive lineman at this point from the outside, you'd much rather that player be highly tackle capable than anything else, right?
Sure, I agree. I do think it's important for us to pull back and just look at all the moves. Pittsburgh's not put themselves in a good situation. To me, they've swapped Jesse Davis for Joe Haig. I think Haig was the better player. I'm still a bit mystified why they decided to go with Jesse Davis. I mean, your backup tackles are either Davis or Trent Scott. That's not good at all. And so you have to just look at it from a 30,000-foot view and say, what is the thought process behind constructing this backup offensive line? Because it does not look pretty.
I mean, unless they can, anything that they trade for right now, even if it's the kid over at the Bears, what's his name?
Evan Jenkins?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like he's going to be the starting right guard. It felt like he found a home at guard.
Right. I mean, even if you trade for anybody at this point, the Steelers' history points to that probably being more of a project, like a pedigree project of some sort, Mm-hmm. But look, here's the thing too. I mean, what are the odds of all five of these starting offensive linemen playing every snap during the season? I mean, they've been
very low.
They've been a relatively healthy kind of unit, kind of. For the most part, Kevin Dotson got 10 snaps in last year before he went down. And obviously you had, a handful of minor stuff along in there. But at some point, one of these guys is probably going to miss some snaps. And hopefully you're hoping it's not multi-game snaps or something like that. But, I mean, to think about Trent Scott and or Jesse Davis having to play tackle snaps on this team in 2022, that's something that and look, it's not like this starting five is primed to be top five in the league either.
Sure.
This is where the real concern at this point. It's been a concern all off season. I think we agree, but with the 53 now set and all looking like all the moves are made and that kind of thing, this continues to be the glaring open wound that you look over to kind of look at, and you have to look away a little real quickly there. You can't force yourself to look at it very long. Now, hopefully they, you have Big Duke out there who's, I love Big Duke, but sometimes I think he defends the position way too hard, He don't like anybody talking bad about any offensive lineman, let alone any that he's trained and all like that. And I get it, having loyalty and all like that. And a lot of the comments that he get are just stupid. People are uneducated kind of stuff when it comes to not actually watching the tape and all like that. But he's got a comment floating out there that you got to give this kind of thing time. And the whole Pat Myers system. I get that to a degree, and I think you've done good jobs in kind of your videos of breaking down stuff. And but here's the thing, that he's been teaching this all throughout the off season. And yeah, game action is different than practice action and all like that. And maybe it does take repetition, but let's say this thing takes another 4 or 5 games to even get where it's okay to kind of look at there. What's going to happen in those first 4 or 5 games?
Sure.
And on top of it, let's say you maximize the learning and what's being taught there. How much more better is it going to actually get?
Those are 2 really fair and important questions, and I'm with you 100%. You can use the summer and preseason to say, hey guys, let's just talk about progression and getting better, and this will take time. Once the regular season starts, that excuse does not fly. No one cares about, it's just going to take time and we'll get there if you're losing games. And especially when you have 2 AFC North games in your first 3 weeks, you don't want to, at worst, you want to split those. Obviously, you don't want to go 0-2 there. That really puts you in a hole to start the year. At least no better than 1-2, and 0-2 in the North would be just a disastrous start. So I hear you there. To the point about how they constructed this line, obviously we don't really know maybe what they tried to do and just couldn't pull off. It sounds like they were in the market to trade for, who was it, Dennis Daly, and that did not happen. So they kind of pivoted to Jesse Davis. We don't know what waiver claims they could have put on somebody. We don't know what trade conversations they may have had with other players. I saw Ian Rappaport say the Eagles got a ton of calls about Andre Dillard. I'd bet good money that the Steelers were trying to have those conversations. Obviously did not occur. Now Dillard, unfortunately, is hurt. I think he broke his arm. But just again, generally speaking, if your backup tackles are Jesse Davis and Trent Scott, you didn't do a good enough job giving yourself depth.
Who do you want to see at right tackle, first one off the bench?
And I have a door number 3. I mean, can I not pick one of the 2 options that are on the table? No. I mean, it's really kind of the same. I guess I would go with Jesse Davis. Again, Trent Scott just knows the system and is comfortable in the system, and that's a big reason why he's here. His hands are better than his feet. His feet are a mess. He's going to get destroyed by speed rushers. Davis won't be a lot better, but maybe just because I've seen less of Davis getting beat makes me feel like I want to turn to him first. Plus, he does have more experience, and he might be a better run blocker as
well. And look, I think that there's one there, but it doesn't. Just some of Jesse Davis's strengths that I've talked about, mostly relate to him playing at guard. I think he does a good job of recognizing stunts and twists and staying on level with the tackle or with the center in those situations and helping picking. He's not flawless at it, but I see the ability to not lose so many times that way by being cognizant of twisters and crashers and those kind of things there. So there is that about him at guard. And then also, I don't think he's a bad puller. I think right now he might be the best pulling guard on this team. And what does that say, right now? Now, obviously we haven't seen Kevin Dotson have to do it all that much, right? So there's not a big selection of seeing Dotson do that. And is that really James Daniels' game, pulling?
A little bit. Again, this team hasn't pulled a ton. It feels like they pull the most during their RPO package to try to get those linebackers to step up, to throw slants behind them. So it's not going to be a big predominant piece of the scheme. So I think Daniels might be the best puller right now, though.
Okay. Well, regardless, if push comes to shove, I only want to see Davis play guard if forced. If forced to see any of those backups in the game, the first backup I would choose to have to be in a game and at a certain position would be Jesse Davis at guard. That would be my first choice.
Sure. Same here. I think that is going to be the choice. Now, your first preference at backup left tackle, that is Scott, or is it Davis? I know neither are. I'm going to the eye doctor today where they give you the really blurry images and they say pick which one's better. I mean, that's kind of what you're picking here. Yeah,
it's a wash, I think. I mean,
okay. Who do you think will be the guy? I think it'll be Trent Scott.
Yeah, probably Trent Scott, and I think it'll be Trent Scott at both positions, quite honestly.
At both tackle spots.
At both tackle spots.
I agree. I'm with you. Yeah. So
I don't want to see it, but I have a feeling we will see it at some point. Unfortunately,
it's like you're going to eat your Brussels sprouts whether you like it or not. That's kind of what you're getting there. But again, I think Pittsburgh has done it. Again, why did this team dump Joe Hague? Not that Joe Hague was like a Pro Bowler or anything close to it. No. But he's better than Jesse. Is it because Hague can't play guard as well, and they wanted Trent Scott as a tackle? And they said, well, Hague's kind of more, emergency guard, and Davis is better guard. Is that the idea?
I'm guessing, but why not do this at this point? Hague, I think there was a report he visited the Raiders. We'll see if he has gets any more interest out there. But if he doesn't and he's healthy, and I guess we're assuming that he's over that. I mean, didn't he talk about being over the concussion almost the day he got cut or whatnot?
Yeah, he practiced the day that he got cut.
Right. I don't know. Maybe they went to him, Alex, and said, you got to take a pay cut to stay or yada, yada. But here's the thing. They already paid him $500,000 in March as a roster bonus. And it's not like his salary was over the top anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe it becomes in this next week, after he sees what's out there, and maybe he doesn't find anybody willing to pay him any more than the minimum, maybe they say, come on back and take a veteran benefit contract. It's $1 million, and you're only going to play in case somebody get it. And then you cut Kendrick Green. Kendrick Green will go through waivers, I would think. And then you can put Kendrick Green on the practice squad if you still want to look at your draft pick trophy there. And then you put Hague on the 53, and then you decide who you want to dress, on game days. I would suggest dressing Hague over Trent Scott at that point, and let Trent Scott become the inactive at that point. But I don't know, maybe there's something we don't know. And once again, it's not that we're putting Hague on this huge pedestal. It's just like the best of it's the shiniest turd.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be a good scenario. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they made their decision and they're moving on from Hague and they're going with Trent Scott. And if they felt like Hague was the better option than Trent Scott, they wouldn't have cut Hague in the first place. Well,
I wouldn't even look at it that way. Once I got Jesse Davis in the door, and assuming that the number one spot for him would be either guard spot, then to me there was no reason to. Why are they holding on? Why are they letting Kendrick Green hold a spot here? And I'm with you. I don't think he's coming back because it's not like the salary wasn't over the top anyway. And how much were you really going to save playing the long game there? It does really feel like they've just washed their hands of Joe Hague at this point for whatever reason. And once again, it's not like, the cutting of Joe Hague set this franchise back 5 years. Alex, remember back in 2022 when the Steelers cut Joe Hague? That was the turning point of no. But right. When you're talking about the best, or at the time, the team's top sixth offensive lineman, it was Hague, like it or not, I think.
I agree. What I would have done in my armchair quarterback ways, I would have kept Joe Hague and then just traded or acquired a better true guard and have him be the guard, left guard, right guard. Hague is the backup left tackle, right tackle. And then if you want to bring back Trent Scott, you could, or I would probably would have put him on the practice squad because Scott's going to stay in Pittsburgh. He wants to be in the Meyer system. That's all that he's ever known. And then you could elevate him if you want to. You get 3 of those. So that seems to be a better way to keep Hague, to get a better guard, someone who's better than Jesse Davis, a more true guard. Still have Trent Scott. To me, that's a lot better method than what this team has done.
Well, long story short, this team's going to have to find, after this year, they're going to have to go back to the draft and or free agency and get some pedigree that way. That's the only way they're going to get this offensive line right at this point. They're not going to be able to five and dime store this right. At this point, and the way you get a very good guard. I mean, look, occasionally you can find the Ramon Fosters and stuff like that. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to have to be a top first or second round type player. And you got to stop making the mistakes of the Kendrick Greens, and I mean, Dan Moore, it's still early to throw the bathwater out with Dan Moore still in it. I mean, he's got one season. You just got to hope that his play in 2022 is really improved over what we saw during the preseason alone.
Definitely. Long ways to go for him, and it's a critical year for Dan Moore, and it's not gotten off to a good start. We do know this team did not place a claim on Alex Leatherwood. That was a pretty popular name. I had a ton of Steelers fans asking me about, could this team with a pedigree, former first-round pick, just the previous draft,
right?
Alex Leatherwood, only Chicago put a claim on him. Now, I think the contract was a big reason for only one team putting a claim on him. It's kind of surprising he was claimed at all, but we know Pittsburgh did not submit a claim on Alex Leatherwood.
Well, and I tweeted out, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody claimed and people push back. Well, it's contract guaranteed. Well, the old saying that we like to use on this podcast,
That's true.
It only takes one.
Right. And Chicago was that one.
Chicago was that one. So, and he was going to be a project if you did go out and get him, and anyway, so that's where we're, let's rewind. We're way down an offensive line rabbit hole, but I think it needed to be talked about. I too think they're done at this point, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings if somebody else was brought in that was more tackle capable, and then you just pass Kendrick Green through waivers and then sign him to the practice squad that way. But that's been the glaring kind of thing this whole offseason, and it kind of remains that now that it looks like the week 1 53-man roster is set, and maybe it'll surprise the living hell out of us and turn the corner here. But that's a long corner in my opinion to have to turn. All right, back it up now. Back to the 53 talk.
Yeah, Marcus Allen, again, he's the go-around player there as part of the moves where Casey Austin go to IR. For me, the Allen move made all the sense in the world with the salary. No one was going to claim a 26-year-old backup linebacker who's not played the entire summer. He should be good for week 1, and you probably save about half that salary by re-signing him to a cheaper contract.
Right. And let's see, since then we've had another move too. That was right. The meaning of life is now fully understood because of this move.
I did like your Einhorn is Finkel, Finkel is Einhorn reference because, a bit of a strange one, you could say. Yesterday, the Steelers claiming former Steelers linebacker Jameer Jones off of waivers from Jacksonville and waiving and a corresponding move Derek Tuska. And that's interesting because on September 28th of last year, it was Jameer Jones being waived for Derek Tuska, who was promoted from the Steelers practice squad to the 53. So a complete reversal just about 1 year later.
Your boy, this has Danny Smith's fingerprints all over it, if you ask me.
But Tuska was like a decent special teamer.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think I'm willing to bet that Danny Smith views him as Jameer Jones is a little better one overall. Now, remember, this is we're talking about preseason MVP Jameer Jones here from a year ago, right? I mean, he was a guy that had a very good preseason and ended up making the 53, but he got into what was it, the Raiders game, I think, wasn't it, when both Watt and Highsmith kind of tweaked the groins, and we had to see it look anyway. That didn't. I think they like Jameer Jones. I think they like Derek Tuska a little bit more, maybe for his defensive play than they do his special teams play. But on the flip side, I think they like Jameer Jones for his special teams play a little bit more than his overall defensive play, and that includes stopping the run and yada yada yada. And I think now they have what they believe is going to be their season long number 3 in Malik Reed. They decided to maybe up their special teams game a little bit by going with Jameer Jones. Now, here's the thing. Derek Tuska at this point one would think, clear waivers, and then land on your practice squad. So you could potentially see these guys, Einhorn and Finkel, maybe. And then look, you got elevations at your disposal and all like that. So I think they kind of view those two sort of kind of interchangeable there. And I don't think Jameer Jones is going to last all season on the 53. I think he might bounce a time or two to the practice squad. I think maybe you potentially see the same thing with Derek as well.
I think you assessed the reason for those moves really well, where they like Tuska a bit more defensively. They like Jones more in special teams because Tuska got the elevation for, wasn't it the Bengals game? Was it the Bengals game last year where both Watt and Highsmith missed? And so they were really thin there in terms of just defensive outside linebackers. And so I think you're right there. But you're also probably right that Tuska will land on the practice squad. And I guess that's two dogs, one bone. And that bone's been chewed up for quite some time. So interesting move there. But yeah, Jones was definitely a camp darling last year. Certainly earned his spot. Ended up playing for the Rams and Jacksonville last year. So while his time in Pittsburgh during the regular season was pretty short, he played basically the entire season. So excited to see him back in Pittsburgh.
Didn't he block a punt for the Rams or two of them or something like that last season?
Something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, he made some plays for sure.
I did not have time last night to go look at any of Jameer Jones' 2022 tape. On the defensive side of football. Have you looked at any of that?
From this preseason, no, I had not watched anything. And he did play on defense a little bit last year, I think, in both LA and Jacksonville, but not a lot of snaps there.
All right. So that brings us, I think, now caught up to the to the 53 at this point, and obviously now with Sims being kept on the 53, that was enough of a clue at that point that Calvin Austin. Now we just wait and see how long is it going to be on Kazee and how long is it going to be on Calvin Austin the third. Obviously, both those guys have to miss at least the first 4 games, and hopefully both will be back sooner rather than later. Although Calvin Austin now at this point, that train's going to get out of the station. It's going to be easier for Kazee to come and get back on the train than it is for Calvin Austin III.
Right. I think Austin will be healthier before Kazee, but Kazee is going to be quicker to catch that moving train than Austin. I had a question yesterday. Can they start practicing before the 4 games are up? Or are they not allowed to practice? That window not open until after 4 weeks for them to even start practicing again? What's the rule? I think they have to wait till the first 4 games to at least begin practicing. That's when the 21-day window you can be activated, and that opens up for the player.
That sounds right. Of course, these are all, this has been, seems like a constant change in this rule. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to research that to make sure.
Okay. I mean, I think Austin will basically be healthy by the time the first 4 games are up. But to your point, just missing all that time, because at that point he'll have missed, almost 2 months will be going on in terms of when he got hurt during camp from the time he's, officially cleared and able to come off of injured reserve. And so that's just a big chunk of time for a rookie to try to integrate himself back into the system.
Right. And it's, at this point, maybe around mid-season, he can start integrating more into the offense, hopefully.
Right, but with how deep this receiver room is, it might be tough to get that hat. If Simmons looks good, if he's getting some playing time, and you have 6 guys right now, not all of them are going to likely be active on game day. So we'll see. Tough start for Austin, but I think Pittsburgh wanted to take advantage of their really strong receiver depth. Austin was not going to be a guy that was going to help them early in the year, so IR to me is pretty logical. And then with Kazee, I'm sure he's already underwent surgery, and hopefully he can come back by, like I said, about midseason.
Right.
All right, Dave, that's the 53-man roster, all the moves that have happened so far. Let's talk Steelers practice squad. And so initially, we had to play the waiting game on Wednesday for them to announce their initial group of just 8 guys, and they slowly...
Boy, that was a long wait to sit there staring at the Twitter machine.
Yeah, I get to just refresh every 4 seconds for an hour and a half anyway. So they're up to officially 11, but a 12th name that's been reported but not confirmed by the team. So I'm going to include that one and assume that's true based on the reporting. And I'll read off the list of 12 so far. They are running back Anthony McFarland, wide receiver Cody White, tight end Justin Rigg, offensive lineman John LeGlue, Ryan McCollum, and William Dunkel, defensive lineman Carlos Davis, defensive lineman Ren, I guess is how you say it.
Ren. Yeah.
Ren. Okay. Hamilcar Rashid Jr., Chappelle Russell, inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker, former Steeler returning, cornerback Mark Gilbert, and safety Elijah Riley. So a couple of names from outside the organization. I had a pretty strong suspicion this team was going to add several guys from outside the organization. Those guys are Rigg and Russell and Ren and Gilbert so far, and probably more to come. So that's how the group is slowly being formed out.
I will tell you this. I thought in that final preseason game alone, I liked what, where's the tracker at, Alex? So
I unstickied it. I can send it to you though.
Yes. It's still on the first page. I got it here. Okay. So I could just have all these names sitting in front of me because there's several that I want to talk about here. Elijah Riley, I thought he showed just in his NFL tape alone, and in that one in that one preseason game wasn't it? Yeah, just the final one.
The finale.
There. Yep. There. I thought he showed enough to definitely. I thought he maybe, depending on how the thing went with Killebrew, I thought maybe there's an outside chance that he made the 53. I think they really got a very nice ad there with Riley on the practice squad. I was glad to see that. I think our own Tyler Wise called Mark Gilbert returning back to the practice squad there. This was a kid that had obviously upside last year during the preseason and all. They obviously got him to the practice squad. He was plucked off the practice squad, even made a play, I think, forced a fumble in the Lions game against the Steelers last year. Guy that ended up being showing that he might have some makings too as a potential gunner on special teams there. So I think that's a smart move to get Mark Gilbert back in the system, especially in a cornerback kind of starved depth chart, if you will. So I like that. I don't know as much about I did not get a chance to, maybe you can tell me more about Russell, Chappelle Russell here. I don't know as much about him. Obviously, Hamilcar Rashid Jr. is a guy that maybe they want to work with here at outside linebacker. You got a lot of chalk in here, and Anthony McFarland, Cody White, John LeGlue, Ryan McCollum, William Dunkel, and Carlos Davis, who you already know quite a bit about, was with your team. So they joined Hamilcar Rashid Jr. and Elijah Riley on the practice squad. As far as the outside players go, this is where it gets it's a mini victory lap for you, for lack of a better word here. I love every year, and I think readers should as well at this point here, the Alex Kozora, what they look for draft post, because it's all about checking boxes in there. And yeah, it's mostly from a height, weight, speed. I mean, they're all analytical stuff because you can't really measure the heart or the character that way without going deep down rabbit holes and all like that. But Rennell went and look, even as early as when it was the Senior Bowl, I think, the 2019 Senior Bowl, I tweeted out the measurables of Ren, saying this might be a guy that we have to do a lot of film study on, because it looked like he was going to check quite a few boxes there. And lo and behold, you get into what the Steelers look for that season at the defensive end position. And Rennell Wynn was the only defensive lineman that checked all the boxes. Yeah. There, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we've talked about how hard it is to kind of find that type at defensive end that Pittsburgh looks for. And Wren is a guy that does check all those boxes from a size, length standpoint. They're getting harder and harder to find. So no surprise to see him come to Pittsburgh.
And then you go back even just a couple of weeks ago, Mike Tomlin talking about the planet theory in that conversation with Bob Labriola, right? There's only so many people this big that run, this athletic, and obviously he wasn't referring to Rennell Wren at the time, but it's been, when you see these guys, height, weight, speed, guys like Rennell Wren at this point, the Steelers have a type. They have a type, man, and he definitely fit that. Now, will he turn into anything? We'll see. Obviously, at this point, he was with the Bengals, and then the Eagles is where he just came from, I think, there. But now they get their own set of eyes on him. We'll see what Carl Dunbar. So overall, Rennell Wren, and I don't think the Steelers have officially announced that move yet.
Right. He's the one that's not been announced yet.
Right. When and if that, and we would expect that it would happen at this point. But that's a guy that, once again, we should not be surprised lands on the practice squad. And for lack of the better word, Chappelle Russell is as well, too. Tell us a little bit about Chappelle Russell.
Right. From our What They Look For study, Russell, when he came out.
That was 2020, right?
Yes, I believe 2020. He missed in only 3 cone. That was the only box that he missed in. 7th round pick at Tampa Bay, had spent it, I think, with Jacksonville. I want to say most of his time there, and has been primarily a special teamer. Temple tough dude. Actually tore his ACL twice in college, and so he's been able to come back from that and still stick. Softball linebacker who played a little bit on defense and special teams this past season, and again, former 7th round pick of the Buccaneers. So inside linebacker depth, in terms of the practice squad options, weren't great. It does seem like this team's probably moving on from Buddy Johnson, and I'm okay with that.
What?
Yeah, I don't think Johnson really did enough to stick around with the team. And generally speaking, if you're going to cut a recent draft pick, just move on from him. If you're cutting him, if you say he's not good enough, you're 53, barring injury or it's just some other weird scenario. Just wash your hands clean of the guy and move on. That's probably what they're doing with Buddy Johnson.
Yeah, I don't. They don't. I think the username was Clark Griswold or whatnot on the site. I don't think we'll be seeing him on the site anytime soon, because he gave me hell for suggesting that there was a chance that or really all I was stating was that Buddy Johnson should not be considered a lock to make the 53 this year, and he shouldn't have been. And now it doesn't even look like the Steelers even want him around on the practice squad. So what does that indicate at this point here? I mean, obviously they still got a handful of slots still to fill over the next day or two here, and we'll see maybe if he circles back. But with Marcus Allen back on the 53, and with already one inside linebacker and Chappelle Russell on the practice squad, the likelihood of another inside linebacker getting added to the practice squad, I would think, would be kind of low at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Justin Rigg, one of the other outsiders coming over from the Bengals, big blocking tight end.
Intriguing. 6'6". Very intriguing.
Okay. You've watched him more than I have. I just kind of know his size.
And I've watched him probably 12 more plays than you have. Right. I haven't gone deep in there, but a very intriguing guy. And he better be, if you're as a blocker, if you're going to move on. Not that Kevin Rader's going to go into any Hall of Fame practice squad players, but if you weren't going to bring Kevin Rader back, you better have a better blocking, a younger tight end that's more of a blocker in your holster, if you will. And in the very little bit that I watched on Justin Rigg, I think that's the case here. I think you got a guy that you're going to try to develop as a blocker there. I assume that he's got some special teams ability that's worth maybe cultivating. He's not going to be a 4 teams guy, I don't think, but a guy that can help you in some phase that way. So the fact that it does indeed look like they're moving on from Kevin Rader at this point, I think Justin Rigg makes for an intrigue option there in lieu of him.
I feel like Justin Rigg is Zach Gentry insurance if something ever happened to Gentry, because this team was clearly looking for a bigger blocking type. I mean, Kevin Rader was a decent blocker. He wasn't a particularly big guy. And so the Steelers worked out or visited with Dalton Keene, who was kind of like Justin Rigg, and then they bring in, obviously, Rigg himself. And so if Gentry ever went down and you needed that number 2 pure blocking tight end, obviously Connor Hayward's not going to fit that mold. And so you want that backup plan there. And so I think that's the big reason why a guy like Riggs being brought in for his body type, because Gentry's role's expanded. It's become, he's carved out a pretty good niche in this offense. And if they do lose him, they need someone to replace him. They don't want to have to just scrap all their 12 personnel ideas. So I think that's kind of the reason and motivation behind bringing in Justin Rigg.
All right. Now, are they done with recent cut Steelers returning to the, it feels like they are. It feels like the guys that are on the practice squad right now, I mean, I suppose maybe they don't get someone else, maybe that they're after or whatnot, but it feels like the guys that were most recently cut that are now on the practice squad, that might be the list.
Potentially, it would seem pretty likely. I think some of the most notable names that are not on the Steelers practice squad, I think the most notable one is wide receiver Tyler Vaughn, who had a great summer, did really well inside stadiums, earned a lot of praise from Mike Tomlin. Could he potentially be weighing options because obviously it takes 2 to tango at that point, where a player has to want to come back and sign to your practice squad. And Vaughn's maybe looking at it saying, this team just kept 7 receivers. They got 6 healthy right now. Calvin Austin's going to come back at some point, probably by, week 6, week 7. Is there really a home for me? Now, Vaughn's has not, to my knowledge, signed anywhere yet. So I don't know really if he's just evaluating things or Pittsburgh truly did not want to bring him back. Cody White, the only receiver on this practice squad right now. They should probably add, I would guess, at least one more name to wide receiver on the practice squad. So I'd say Vaughn's is the most notable name. Henry Mondeau went to the Giants, and so close the book on the Mondeau era. What other names did you think were going to land?
Are you lighting a candle there or something?
I'll always have a soft spot for Henry Mondeau, who did have a better summer. And actually, Cam Hayward said that Mondeau bulked up this summer to play more nose tackle. He did play better, but obviously Pittsburgh's super deep defensive line limited his opportunity, and I'm not mad about him being cut. Obviously, Khalil Davis, only one Davis twin so far in Carlos. Khalil does not seem like he's going to join Carlos on the practice squad. Again, Buddy Johnson, seems like the book's closed on him as well.
And if you look around the NFL transaction sheet, a lot of teams have a complete practice squad at this point. I think there are a handful of Steelers really sit and wait in the bushes, don't they? On these kind of things, and maybe wait to see if guys, the last minute roster shuffling like they did themselves to see if people cycle through in this thing. Now, here's the most interesting thing of all these guys that they. And I think it's 12 now. Is it 11 officially and 12 with Renell Wren? Mm-hmm. All of these guys, unless I'm mistaken, are all the minimal 2 years or less guys. So these next 4 very well might be veterans.
That's a good point. Right. The only veterans right now, McFarland, and there's at least one other. Who's the other exception guy on here?
It is McFarland and
Cody White.
Carlos Davis has got 2 years too, right?
Okay. Yeah, maybe him.
I think that might be it there. I posted that the other day, the levels. Hold on, and I'll tell you.
Okay. But again, in terms,
but none of them have more than 2 years experience is what I'm talking about. So all these guys so far, even the ones that they call as exceptions, still are in that minimal practice squad salary. The ones that, they can sign veterans with more than 4 years experience, but I think you're limited to something like 6 max or something like that. And they have 0 of those guys right now. So I would not be surprised if they're sitting and waiting. Let's see, Ryan McCollum is an exception, is considered an exception. Anthony McFarland is considered an exception, and Cody White is considered an exception. And I forgot to pull up the one from yesterday there. But anyway, don't be surprised if three or even all four of these remaining guys are 4-year guys or greater.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely watch for that. And they may be a bit slower to fill out their practice squad when you're dealing with outsiders and you're bringing guys in for visits and they got to get physicals. And maybe you're kind of, just weighing options at that point. And those players are weighing options as well. But again, I said on, I think, Monday's show, I expect this team to really have a lot of new faces on the practice squad, guys that were not in training camp in Latrobe. And that's kind of the way this thing's going already. 1, 2, 3, 4, if you count Gilbert in terms of outsiders, probably, at least 3 more to come from the outside. So,
Derek Tusk is going to be one of them.
Oh yeah, okay, right. Tusk, probably assuming he clears and all that, should be one there. So 3 spots left, assuming Tuska lands on the practice squad.
And I would think that good chance that all 3 of them end up being that veteran status. Chappelle Russell also considered an exception player, but
does exception count against like the 6 that you can have? Is that what exactly is an exception player versus a veteran player?
Yeah, that's a good question, and they keep changing this up as well too.
Because my understanding was an exception player counted as one of your 6 veteran spots. That's why they're the exception.
But isn't it 10? How does the number 10 play into all that too? Hold on a minute. Let me pull up.
You can have 6 veterans and 10 have to be the non-veterans, the traditional practice squad guys, the rookies, first-year players.
All right, here you go. As a reminder for the 2022 season, the CBA allows up to 6 practice squad players per club with no limitations as to their number of accrued seasons to negotiate, blah, blah, blah. So up to 6 players per club with no limitations as to their accrued. So you could have 6 veterans on this team. Now, where's the other statement that was related to the 10, right? There was something with the number 10.
Well, 10 is the remainder. It's the 10 guys. They can't be veterans, or there's a limit on their accrued
seasons. Right.
Right. But I'm asking, isn't McFarland counted as one of those veterans? Because he's listed as an exception, same with White and McCollum.
No, because they will label these guys veterans.
Okay. Then what is an exception? What is an exception?
I guess it means that they have 2 or more accrued seasons, I think.
But they can carry as many of those guys as they want then? They can have a whole practice squad of exceptions. That's what threw me off.
Yeah, it's confusing as hell.
2 people who care about this, and we're both talking to each other right
now. Okay. Of the 16 players allowed on a practice squad, 10 may not have accrued more than 2 NFL seasons.
More than 2. So 3 or more.
While the remaining 6 have no limitations.
So is McFarland part of that group of 10?
Well, McFarland has, this is McFarland's.
He's been hurt though, so I don't know how many accrued seasons he had.
When was McFarland drafted?
19?
19, right?
No, he was 20. He was COVID year
20.
Guy.
Okay, 20. So 20. He's only got 2 accrued seasons, but I don't know why they consider why he's listed as exception. Maybe because he's not a rookie. Maybe that's the way they look at it that way.
But an exception to what? I thought that was the veteran guy. That was your veteran exception. No, that was my understanding.
They will hold on, man. Let me look at the transaction sheet. Because like Craig James with the Jets, okay, he's listed on their practice squad. He has a veteran listing under his name. Tony Jefferson with the Giants, the same way. Max Garcia with the Giants listed as a veteran. Henry Mondeau with the Giants is listed as an exception player.
What the heck's an exception player? I don't even understand what that means then. Why did they just label it veteran or not veteran? Those are the 2 categories.
I don't know. Just something to create a 5-minute discussion on the terrible podcast, evidently here. Long story short, they don't have any veteran guys, any guys listed as veterans at this moment. on the practice squad. Derek's probably going to be listed as an exception player. So I would think these last three, there's a high chance that all three of these last three are veteran players, considered veteran players.
Fair point.
In the story, this probably sounds like Abbott and Costello to everybody else listening. We care, but that's why we care about this stuff. It helps decipher some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation, because I thought exception meant you're one of the veteran 6 exceptions. That seemed logical to me. So I'm actually glad that might
play into the 10 number, which I don't fully still have a grasp. And if I don't have a grasp on it, who the hell does? Yeah,
I don't. Anyway, we'll see the rest of the practice squad names are, and that's really all that matters. And the Steelers will be in the parameters of whatever the league allows. That's the bottom line. By the way, from a waiver claim standpoint, Pittsburgh was not awarded anybody off of waivers. They could have potentially claimed somebody and lost out to somebody higher in the order. We do not know of any instance of that. The Steelers lost one player to waivers. That is cornerback Justin Lane going to the Giants. Not that I don't think Pittsburgh's super upset about that, but that was their one Steeler who was lost to waivers.
One other note on this to drive people nuts. This year, players that don't fall into the players who have accrued 2 or fewer seasons in the NFL use the following salary scale for on a fixed weekly salary, and that number for those players is $11,500 a week. Okay. Now, where it got different is NFL veterans have a little bit more negotiating power now when it comes to salary on a practice squad. The minimum salary they can earn this year is $15,400 per week, and the maximum is $19,900 a week. I guarantee you that as cheap as the Steelers are, they're not waving around that $19,900 to these other players here. And agents also aren't probably going to direct that way too, because evidently I get these emails that I shouldn't get with talking about agents can get a percentage of the weekly salary above the minimum of that. So agents obviously are angling for their clients to get the maximum 19,000 whatever it is salary, so they can get a tiny piece of that, right? So that's probably playing another thing into this thing. Taking a couple of days here to see if any of these other veterans get any greater offers out there, and then turn around and the Steelers say, look, come over here, we'll give you the minimum. You wouldn't think that it's that big a deal, but for some reason the Steelers always end up on the lower end of the pay scale when it comes to this stuff. So maybe that's something else to think about here.
Yeah, I think Rooney's comment was, in terms of how they pay some of these guys, including their front offices, they're always fair, but they're on the low end of fair. It's the way I think Dan Rooney once phrased that.
Okay.
All right. So anything else from a roster move or practice squad standpoint? Again, they'll fill out the practice squad with their last 4. Tuska may be one of those, so it could be 3 more additional names after that, probably today or maybe by Monday at the latest.
I mean, from a practice squad perspective, it doesn't look too terribly bad. I mean, Dunkel, I thought, we talked a little bit about Dunkel after he was added. I mean, there was a game there that Dunkel might have been the best offensive lineman in there. LeGlue, position flexibility, and
could he be an elevation guy that would come up on a game day? Is he better than Jesse Davis?
I mean,
he probably won't get elevated, or at least wouldn't be above Jesse Davis. But that's
you're not going to catch me with a Jesse Davis fathead in my office here and nowhere close. I do think Jesse Davis is a little bit better guard than LeGlue.
That's fair. All right, fair point. But LeGlue is certainly flexible, and that's good to have on the practice squad.
Right. Now, look, at some point due to injuries or whatnot, we were likely to see LeGlue's an elevation at the very least at some point during the season.
Right. Someone gets hurt, you got to call him up because he can play basically everything but left tackle.
All right, who are your inactives right now? Let's play the inactive game.
You're starting this one early.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on how many elevations do they have, how many active and inactive spots, right? Isn't there that whole conversation?
Right. I mean, and they have Yeah, that's true. I mean,
well, let's just assume 5. Let's just assume the standard. It's the standard is 5, right?
Right, and they have to dress 8 offensive linemen to take advantage of them only having 5 inactives, assuming they don't elevate anybody.
Okay, so assuming 5, Mason Rudolph 1, Kendrick Green 2. I'm just going off the top of my head right now. Probably Steven Sims. I don't know for sure, but maybe Sims. Hold on. I'm going to take Sims out of it for a second. Rudolph, Green, 2 defensive linemen. They're going to need 5. I'm going to say Loudermilk and Leal. That's 4. And then one more being probably like either an inside linebacker of some sort, either Marcus Allen or Mark Robinson.
Whew. You want to talk about the fan base getting upset if Mark Robinson's inactive, right?
Right. I mean, any disagreements though? Would you have it could be a receiver over an inside linebacker. You could have Steven Sims instead of Allen or Robinson.
Let's see. Let me take a quick peek at the full roster here.
And obviously some injuries may be dependent on, is an Arthur Millette healthy, et cetera, et cetera. Killebreau's status is still a little weird. And so there's that component that I'm not really considering right now without an official injury report.
Yeah, let's see. Leal's probably going to be in. Yeah, I think the only question becomes, is it Sims? I mean, because if you dress Robinson, at least you could put out there on special teams, right?
Yeah, I think he's got some work to do there. I think he had one good kick coverage play in that Lions game, but there's still probably some green to him as a special teamer because I'm guessing he didn't do that much.
It still feels like Sims is kind of a redundant, who are you going to get the most snaps out of overall, special teams and offensive snaps combined in his case, and with Mark Robinson, defensive snaps, obviously probably going to be 0, but can you is there enough special teams work in there for Mark Robinson, to warrant getting the helmet? That to me, that's where the choice is here, is between Mark Robinson and Steven Sims as the 5th inactive. I think you got the rest of, because they generally only dress 5 defensive linemen. Now maybe they up that by 1.
You could argue that for sure. But I think Loudermilk being hurt a little bit, Leal just being new, and you have quality, guys and quality versatility in your top 5, and Hayward, Alualu, Ogunjobi, Wormley, and Adams. I think that's probably all you need for week 1.
All right, another rabbit hole we got no business going down more than a week out from the regular season here. Okay.
Well, let's take it down one more, David. The article you had that went up bright and early this morning, your breakdown of Steelers 2023 free agents, guys who are in their final year of their contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to run through the list and just kind of give a quick evaluation and maybe some way too early predictions about these guys' futures?
Yeah, first and foremost, good thing I didn't push the button on this in the first draft copy, because it would have been short. I had to do some late night editing there, especially with the Jameer Jones and Derek Tusker, because both those guys 1-year deals. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen the numbers on that. I included them in there, but your unrestricted candidates as we sit here today. Now, this list is sure to be shorter for whatever reason by a couple of names, just because of roster manipulation and all like that as the season goes on. But it's quite a lengthy list. Larry Ogunjobi, Cam Sutton, Tyson Adewalu, Terrell Edmonds, Devin Bush, Damontae Kazee, Chris Wormley, Derek Watt, Robert Spillane, Zach Gentry, Jesse Davis, Malik Reed, Benny Snell Jr., Miles Boykin, Mason Rudolph, Trent Scott, Marcus Allen, and then your 2 IR guys, Anthony Miller and Carl Joseph. That's a long list of guys that are going to be unrestricted free agents. Who on this list is let's not go through each one and take a long time, but who on this list of unrestricted free agents is most likely to return to the Steelers in 2023, even if it's like a 1-year deal for the minimum? that allows them to compete, for a roster spot.
It's a long list. It's not the most notable list ever we're going to have on one of these in terms of big name free agents. Cam Sutton, Ogunjobi are really the top two names that you would probably list there. Ogunjobi,
feels like he's going to play himself out of Pittsburgh.
You're going to get that big $40 million deal next year. He's supposed to get this past off season. Sutton, I could see returning. I think he would like it here. I like his versatility. They're big fans of Cam Sutton. So I would say him and probably Zach Gentry being the two most likely names to re-sign.
Damontae Kazee's got a chance to play himself out of it. But within that, if this is it for Terrell Edmunds, and if Kazee comes back and is the guy he was before he left, which there's no reason to think that he won't be, and if he stays healthy the rest of the way, I think you seriously have, and more than a minimum at that, I think you seriously got to look at Damontae Kazee as being a piece that you really would try hard to get back, I think.
Yeah, maybe. And I like his game, but he'll be next year over 30, right?
Right. So, but they don't have a problem re-signing their own that way, that they know.
Sure. It's just the principle of how much do you invest into a guy as he gets into his age 30 season that's already had a torn Achilles and broke his wrist or whatever the injury was this year, and et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, could you sign him and have him compete and still add somebody? Certainly you could do that. It's not like you have to sign him to be your, slam dunk day one starter next year.
Jesse Davis feels like a one and done guy. Malik Reed. I mean, if Reed has a great season, he's probably going to play himself into a better deal elsewhere, And if he doesn't have a good season, then maybe he comes back on a near minimal deal, So I like Reed's chances of returning a lot better than I do Jesse Davis. Benny Snell football might, and much to the happiness of probably several of our listeners, 2022 might be it for Benny Snell. Well, what about Miles Boykin? That's an interesting name to discuss.
Yeah, just depends on how this year goes. Will he want a chance for more playing time because he may not see many offensive snaps this year? Maybe the sticking point for Boykin.
I mean, and you said it, such a long list, not a lot of names jump out overall here. Ogunjobi, Sutton. I think this is it for Tyson Alualu. Final year in the NFL potentially for him. Terrell Edmunds, Devin Bush. It just feels like.
A Wormley could come back. I could see Robert Spillane. Maybe Bush leaves. They re-sign Spillane for some protection. They still look to add. I mean, I could see that happening.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as guys for more than the minimum likely to resign.
Sutton. Probably Sutton. I mean, Gentry may get more than the minimum. I think he would, but it's not going to break the bank, obviously.
Right.
So those are kind of the two that jump out to me.
Maybe Malik Reed?
Maybe, but he knows he's stuck behind Highsmith and Watt as long as he's here. So, does he want to at least test the market? That may be his vision.
And then how many of these guys are going to be super attractive to other teams that might produce any kind of notable compensatory value? Maybe Mason Rudolph gets
what contract is he going to get that puts him in the comp window? It's going to be like a 1 year deal.
I'm talking about, anything that positively affects more than a 6 or 7.
Ogunjobi could get some if he gets that big contract.
Right. Ogunjobi, and then obviously depending on what happens with Cameron Sutton, would impact it, but really that's it.
What guys on this list are you pretty sure will not be back, regardless of reason, next year? I would say Alu retires. I think
Ogunjobi's gone, whether you like it or not. I think Tyson Alualu's gone. Edmonds gone. Bush gone. I really think Wormley's going to be gone. Derek Watt's going to be gone. I think they're going to move on from Spillane, Jesse Davis, Benny Snell. Rudolph's gone. Scott, unless
is Pat Meyer here is the question.
Scott, Marcus Allen, and Anthony Miller and Carl Joseph. It just feels like the clock's ran out on both those. So
it's like 3/4 of the list right there.
I know. Right. And they might be gone out of the NFL too. I mean, a couple of them will latch on a minimum fighting for roster spots, maybe around the league. But as far as Pittsburgh goes, there's not going to be many of these guys. There's always 2 or 3, right? That end up re-signing 2, 3, 4, something like that of unrestricted guys. So I think you'll see that again. But a good chunk of this list is of unrestricted guys is going to be gone.
Right. And the season will happen and it'll play out, and our thoughts on someone will change and someone will emerge and somebody will struggle, and that's all natural. But it certainly, and it kind of is fitting though with Omar Khan and Andy Weidl having their first full off season to kind of really reshape the roster with so many free agents to be, but a lot of guys who are probably going to go. This roster is going to have so many new names. I think it'll be pretty busy for agency next year in terms of just rounding out the roster and filling some more niche specific roles as you kind of just, this roster churn of your bottom 10 guys. It's kind of how it's going to look next year.
Yeah, I would like to now take this moment to officially welcome back Javon Hargrave to the Steelers in 2023. Okay. I think that's appropriate. I
mean, you're not wrong about that.
Restricted free agents. Here's an interesting discussion. 3 players currently set to get restricted free agents. How many of them, if any, receive even the lowest restricted tender from the team? Here's your names: Steven Sims, J.C. Hassenauer, and James Pierre.
I think of the 3, Pierre is most likely. I know his play's been, a little up and down, but I think there's some talent there that's intriguing and some outside corner depth, especially if Cam Sutton were to walk. Hassenauer, it might be one of those things where they don't tender, but they just try to re-sign him to a cheaper 1-year contract than what the tender is worth. And Sims, probably not, but it kind of just depends on how much action he sees. Does Calvin Austin get healthy? Those kind of things.
All right, I think that's a good job on your part. Exclusive rights free agents are guys that all you have to do is offer them the 1-year minimal for their credited seasons and all, and they have really no choice but to re-sign with you. Christian Coots, I think that's a name that's barring him just being awful at this point or some sort of freakish injury. He's definitely going to be a guy that they exclusive rights tender. Will Jameer Jones last all season to even get in that role? Does he end on the practice squad where you just bring him back? So it's a really gray, and it's really not even worth this discussion. Jameer Jones, much more. Jeremy McNichols is currently on the IR, and if he lasts all year on the IR, they'll probably just let him float away.
Right. I think somebody counted this. Is it 25 names on this list? Is that how many unrestricted free agents are there? I think that would be 19.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 unrestricted free agents.
And 15 of those could conceivably leave.
Yep.
I mean, that's a lot of spots. Like I said, I think this roster is going to look a whole lot different, not in terms of the big names, but just in terms of your backups and, again, more niche role players. See a big difference in 2023.
Right. I mean, and look, you already have normal churning anyway of the back end of your roster. And
True.
A lot of these guys are not going to be back. A good portion of these 19 are not going to be back in 2023.
So good preview, good prime. It's always one article that I look towards, which tells me the season's about to start when we're talking about when it's Dave Bryan's next year for regions. I know that means that this season's about to kick off.
All right. You released a very, very good video this morning on James Daniels, who may have got out of his funk in the preseason game, final preseason game. At least looks like he got out of some of his funk.
Improvements, the word I use with James Daniels, going from the mess that was the Jacksonville game to the finale against Detroit. It's a 13-minute video you can check out on Steelers Depot that talks about some of the improvement and the sets and independent hands and just some of the techniques and things that Pat Meyer teaches. I feel like I do have a pretty good grasp under what Pat Meyer's teaching, what he wants, how it looks when it goes well and when it does not go well. And so I outlined some of those things in the video. So too tough for me to explain, thoroughly what I'm the points I make in the video, but just check them out. We talk through the tape, go through, I don't know, 6-7 examples of Daniels certainly looking more comfortable and playing within the scope of what Meyer wants in terms of pass sets and technique and hand placement, things like that.
All right. Your number one, what do you think about them churning the outside linebacker depth chart the way they have over the course of essentially the last 3 weeks, correct? When was Avery cut?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
They have churned the entire bottom of that there. How do you feel about where it's at? Well, I don't want to. We got a question about that. Somebody's coming after you today.
Oh no! They don't like my Malik Reed comments, I'm guessing.
Yeah. All right, where to from here before we get to any reader emails?
Well, just to kind of preview that, I think we got to learn, don't trust the backup outside linebacker situation in Pittsburgh. Last year was Melvin Ingram and Jameer Jones to start, and that went away by midseason. And this year you have, two brand new guys that are, in the sense of Jones, not being on the roster during the summer coming in. So the Steelers love churning their backup inside linebackers or outside linebackers.
Jaylen Warren had some really nice comments after he made the roster, and guys like him, you just can't help but root for moving forward. They're very grateful. And look, this was not a gift roster spot for him either. He earned every bit of the roster spot. So it was really, really good to kind of see that interview the other day with him. It appears
I did like Tyler Wise's comment. I noticed this in an interview a couple weeks ago. Can we get Jaylen Warren a good locker now? He was kind of just in the locker room with this janky looking one. So hopefully he gets a big boy locker.
Oh, you got a Band-Aid on. I want to rip off real quick. I want to rip the Band-Aid off this. What do you think about the Chiefs signing Chris Oladokun to their practice squad?
I didn't think he was going to come back. Why would Oladokun want to come back and just sit there and collect dust on the bench? So I'm not surprised that he goes somewhere else. It's a great situation. I'm not going to rant about it anymore. People know my feelings. It's honestly not worth me yelling about it more. But I know so many people thought, he gets cut early, he's going to come back. No, he was gone.
And once again, the biggest problem that I know Alex has with this, and I'm not as upset as he is, but I'm not too far behind just the same in that it's not the player, it's not the actual, the fact that it's the seventh round. It's just the process of this whole thing stunk because the guy didn't even have a chance. At least seventh rounders, for the most part, 99 times out of 100, at least get a chance unless they're injured to make something, to show something. And he absolutely had as close to zero. He was a glorified water boy, projector boy, or whatever you want to call it. He was one step higher than that in this thing. And that's where the heartburn is within this. It's not that, look, yes, seventh rounders wash out more times than not. But look what you just had happen with, with even an undrafted guy in Jaylen Warren. Look what happened with Mark Robinson. Okay. Call them throwaway picks all you want, but at least draft somebody in that spot that you're going to give a chance to. And that's where the whole nobody's expecting Oladokun to last, this, that, and the other, but at least spend the pick on somebody that you're going to give a chance to. And that's where the heartburn is here. Right.
Right. I think in general, day 3 quarterback selections are dumb choices because their hit rate is even lower than the already low hit rate of a non-quarterback draftee. And then to do that with a guy that you knew going in was not going to play, was not going to have a path and opportunity, and to still make that pick is even dumber. So it's dumb on top of dumb. But again, I'm moving on. All
right. Weakest position group on this 53 as it sits right now.
Throw me a softball down the middle of the plate there. It's offensive line, obviously. Starters, backup, just general cohesiveness. It's of course the offensive line.
All right, second
A little bit tougher. I mean, I think there's still this question about quarterback play in general, not based off of the summer. I think the quarterbacks all did well this summer, but it'll look different in actual in-season action. So my whole thought's been your two biggest question marks on this team: offensive line, overall quarterback play. Can they be consistent? And while it's a decent roster overall, when your biggest question marks are at arguably the most two important positions in football, O-line and quarterback, that's an uneasy spot to sit in.
Okay, I'd agree. And even though they've churned it here in kind of the 11th hour, I want to see. I hope Malik Reed is a guy that can give him something there as that next guy off the bench.
All right, Dave, before we get to reader emails, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie. I know college football season's about to start up. It really has, with the backyard brawl last night. Penn State surviving against Purdue. I don't know if there were any bad beats or what lines were last night, but I'm sure some of that's going to be coming. I was watching Scott Van Pelt. He was giving his picks for the week. So let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
Yeah, look, winning season has officially returned. And with the NFL season almost live here upon us here, a week from yesterday, as a matter of fact, there are plenty of opportunities to win at MyBookie, and college football is now underway. Going to be an exciting weekend of college football. A lot of big games, obviously, on the docket when it comes to that. So plenty of opportunities to get over to MyBookie and start taking advantage of things. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or a first timer, MyBookie gets you the most for your money with a double deposit bonus of up to $1,000. All you got to do is sign up at mybookie.ag. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's terrible on your first deposit, and you'll instantly double your money back with MyBookie. It's simple. A $250 deposit puts $500 in your account, and you can use your funds to bet on as many individual games, contests, or props as you want. Bet on team win totals, predict a Super Bowl winner, or use the MyBookie prop builder to give yourself the edge you need to secure the bag. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie at mybookie.ag. And when you go there, please make sure you use terrible as the promo code as well, too, to take advantage of that double deposit bonus. Once again, bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie and our friends at mybookie.ag.
All right, Dave, let's get to reader emails and close out today's show.
Okay.
Actually, let's not, because someone's yelling at me. So we can skip emails. No, I'm just kidding. Hit me.
Let's see. First, we'll start off with Andreas Antone. What are the factors that decide if somebody has to pass through waivers? And what happens if someone passes through waivers, gets claimed by another team, but doesn't want to go there, rather be on the practice squad of their current team? Okay. First of all, you cannot be a vested player, so you have to have less than 4 seasons time in the NFL. If you're underneath that, if you're not a vested, kind of veteran, if you will, you have to, at this point of the season, pass through waivers. So that's what decides whether or not you have to go through waivers. You saw a couple of these guys just get their contract terminated. Joe Haig, such an example of that, obviously has enough vested years. Pretty much everybody else, I think, had to go. Was there anybody that was that didn't have to go through waiver? Trent Scott was another one, obviously, that was just a contract termination there when it came to that. Now, to the second part of his question, he says, what happens if someone passes through waivers, gets claimed by another team, but doesn't want to go there? Good luck with that, because you basically become property of that team. They're claiming you. They're claiming your contract. If you got claimed off of waivers and didn't want to go to that team, good luck finding a job in the NFL. I
believe that happened. Let me check here. With Dree Archer, he was claimed by the Bills in 2016. He didn't want to go. I don't know actually the whole reason behind it, but he just failed to report. And so if you don't show up, the team will just put you on the did not report list. I mean, you could try to say, hey, I'm not playing here, release me. But as Dave said, good luck with that. So really don't have a choice in the matter.
Let's see here. Just Here has a podcast question. Good job, Dave and Alex. I'll get straight to the point. Rewatching the Bengals games last year where the team supposedly quit, he says Ben was pretty bad. Even watching the O-line, which we all know was bad, his decision-making and lack of mobility were really on display. He says, I say this to ask the question, although it may be sacrilegious. I believe the O-line and quarterback this year is better off the bus than what we went into the jungle with last year. What do you guys believe? Do you have a shot? Do we have a shot first week against them, knowing one game we missed TJ and 5 turnovers in both games? Thanks, guys. Long story short, I guess he's asking, is the O-line and quarterback position better off the bus this year than I'm guessing the first game last year against the Bengals? I would say the short answer to that, yes, but only by a tiny bit.
Yeah, that's not a really confident yes that either of us are going to give here. So in some ways, yes, especially a quarterback. In some ways, again, what quarterbacks will offer in terms of mobility, down the field, middle of the field, ability, it will be an upgrade over Ben. In some ways, it won't be in terms of just general clutchness and running the show and reading defenses and just having been through so many experiences and knowing the Bengals so well. I mean, some of these guys don't know the Bengals as well as, of course, Ben did over the years. But short answer, yes, probably. But is it good enough is a separate question. And now, can this team compete? Do they have a chance? Yeah, Pittsburgh has a chance, of course. Will I pick them? I'll let you know this time next week.
Let's see here with the what the line at mybookie.ag is right now. 6.5 on that game right now, with the Bengals obviously favored at home in that. Short answer, do they have a chance against the Bengals? Yes, they do. I mean, you go back to week 1 last season as a prime example to that. The Steelers are going to be have a chance in every game that they play in this year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. At least where we sit today.
Right. Now, obviously, you can say, well, any given Sunday in the NFL, the way the NFL is, that potentially applies to all 32 teams. Their defense, once again, from where this team is right now, their defense is really going to have to be a driving force in the 2022 season. They're going to have to figure out how to run the football. They're going to have to be able to push the football down the field in certain areas. The offense in games that the offense needs to pull more than their weight in, I worry about whatever those games are. And they're hard to obviously pick because several things can happen. Injuries can happen and all like that. They're going to be in every game. I mean, I think 6.5 or 7 points is probably going to be the most at any one point during the season that you see them underdog, barring injuries and all like that. But look, Alex and I both picked against the Steelers week 1 last year against the mighty Bills, and we saw what happened there. Now there were you're going to have to see circumstances in the game against the Bengals that I think you saw happen in that game against the Bills. You're probably going to need a special teams play. You're going to have defense get a key 4th down, those kind of things. But that's going to be the mantra for this Steelers team in a lot of games this year, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be some ugly games, some lower scoring games, some more keep it close to the fourth quarter, make a play late, that kind of thing. That's going to be the blueprint overall. I mean, with the quarterback offensive line play, there'll be some good moments, there'll be some bad moments. Can you just not ride that roller coaster? That's going to be the key, because if you're riding that roller coaster at those two spots, it's really hard to find your footing in the NFL, especially in a tough AFC North and in a very tough AFC at large.
Paul Brown writes in, David Knox, I know you two have conflicting views on who should start week 1. However, when do you two realistically see Pickett getting the starting role for sure? Given the presumption that Mitch is named the starter, would it take a couple of bad games from Mitch, or would it be after the week 9 bye, regardless of play? I think adding in that regardless of play makes this kind of a slippery slope kind of question there, because regardless of how bad a play, play there. My gut feeling on, and that's all there is, because obviously, I mean, Trubisky could come out and throw 7 interceptions in 2 games, and you just throw your hands up at. I don't. My gut feeling on this for a while now has been that post-bye week kind of transition there. So if I were push come to shove and say, when do I realistically see Pickett getting the starting role? I think after the bye is where I would have circle.
Yeah, I get that. I think most people would as well. It's really impossible to say. It depends on so many variables overall. I do think, and I think I mentioned this, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or somewhere else, I think Tomlin's going to show more patience than what people think or expect or may like to see with Trubisky. Where if it's a bad start, I don't think they're going to immediately pull the ripcord and go to Kenny Pickett. I think Tomlin's going to be a little more resistant to that change than people think out of the gate. I think Pickett will play this year, but it may come later. And it may not be until even the final stretch of the season. That would not shock me.
I think it'll be before that. I don't think we'll be in the final quarter of the season before we see Trubisky play. Pickett play. All right, here you go, Alex. Here's your guy.
All right.
Jay
Hello,
Smith.
friend.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Jay Smith here. I love the pickup of Malik Reed, proven edge rusher with 13 sacks the last 2 seasons. But to hear Alex say he's a marginal upgrade is ridiculous. He has as many or more career sacks than Highsmith, Avery, who he has listed as cut, and Tuska, who is cut combined. So no, it's much more than marginal. Reed can start and get to the quarterback. I'd rather have a linebacker get a non-quality sack than none at all. Not saying he's as good as Highsmith overall, but he's a really good number 3.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's fair. I think it is, an upgrade. I didn't deny that. It just, we can debate the quality of sacks, but when I talk about, is it a covered sack? The linebacker earned that as much as a super high quality one, and they really didn't. And so could a Derek Tuska get a covered sack if the quarterback held on the ball for 4 or 5 seconds, or if there was a zone read and it could technically goes down as a sack? So, I mean, I think that's pretty well established, looking at the quality of the sacks and not just how many sacks that you actually have. I think Reed's, I'm not mad about the trade. I think he's a good run defender. I think he fits the scheme and system well overall. And hopefully he does well. Hopefully he does better, closer to what Jay is saying than what I'm saying. I'd be all for that.
All right. I guess his key fact there is you calling him a marginal upgrade.
I don't know if did I say that exactly? I know I called him a marginal pass rusher, which I think is borne out by just the lack of super quality sacks and things like that. But I mean, yeah, people want to take issue with that. I mean, that's fine. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong about that.
Look, I think he is an upgrade over what they have had on this roster all off season. However, how much better of a all around outside linebacker? And look, my issues with Avery. I would call it a marginal upgrade.
I think my issue was when I saw 13 sacks the last 2 years, I got really excited. And then you turn on the tape and watch those sacks, you're less excited about how they came to be, is my point.
Right. Now, obviously, sacks isn't the end-all, do-all. If this guy can continually, when asked to, in the game and in passing situations, provide pressure, obviously we want a high pressure rate for him. Is he a extremely great fit in the Steelers defense? Yes. I'm not so much worried about his run play. I think Alex pointed all that out very nicely in his breakdown. I am worried about him in his consistency as a pass rusher.
Yeah,
and I think you are as well too. It's not a bad. They got better. Adding him makes their roster better.
Right. It just wasn't quite as good as I thought it might be when I first kind of saw his overall resume and production and the little I knew about him. But again, I think it was a fine trade. It is, as Dave said, things getting better. It just didn't feel like this is a guy that was an 8-sack kind of guy coming to Pittsburgh. It felt more again, lower quality sacks. That's basically my whole point of what I was trying to get to when I talked about him as a pass rusher. It was a lot of bull rushes, a lot of contained type stuff, a lot of effort and hustle and chase down, which is all well and good, but it isn't naturally high level stuff where you're going to have a lot of clean 1v1 wins the way that a Highsmith or a TJ Watt are capable of doing.
What are you, and once again, sacks is a number that needs more context to it, but just as a raw number without any context and assuming Highsmith and Watt played a number of snaps that they're supposed to play and stay healthy, yada, yada. What would the expectation sack number be for a guy now that is clearly the number 3 outside linebacker on this roster? And now that Derek's off the roster, on top of it, I mean, it's going to be a rotation of 3 to some lesser degree. What is the sack expectation of Malik Reed at this point right now?
If I did an over-under, I'd probably put it at about 3.5. That's where I'm at.
I was thinking 4.5.
Okay.
All right. So let's split the difference there with 4. Over, under, or equal for Malik Reed?
I'll push. I'll say he gets exactly 4.
That's my thought as well, too. 4, right at 4. If he exceeds that, no matter how he gets them, then our guy Jay Smith maybe gets his point. I don't know, Jay Smith. Why don't you email us back and let us know what your sack expectations are for Malik Reed? That's fair, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, I don't hate Malik Reed. I just was watching, just going off the tape, just what I saw. And I didn't watch every single snap that he played, but I watched a lot of snaps of his, and I found a lot of, I think, commonalities in his game, and those are my conclusions.
Jesse Hernandez, hey guys, 2 questions for you this morning to change it up a little bit. Would you rather have 2017 Le'Veon Bell, even with his cap charge, or a 2022 Najee Harris this season? He says, elaborate for me. I was watching 2017 game against the Ravens, and man, that guy was so amazing. Also, for fun, who would you say is the better fullback special teamer out of Prime Rosie Nix and Derek Watt?
Oh, it's Rosie Nix for sure on that one.
Prime Rosie Nix was impressive.
Yeah.
You dropped your wallet, kind of thing. And he was taking people's wallets too, on top of it. And Rosie Nix, I mean, he was a straight, and most fullbacks are straight line guys, but when Rosie Nix hit, he hit, man, there. And so yeah, probably Rosie Nix there. 2017 Le'Veon Bell, even at his cap charge, or 2022 Najee Harris.
When he says cap charge, what is that? It was a rookie contract. So what does that have to do with anything?
2017. What year was he franchised the first time?
Was it 17? I don't remember. That's throwing me off a little bit. I don't know all the details top of my head.
And I think that's what
I think it was the franchise tag, because he sat out 2018 because he got franchised again.
Right. So what was it? 12 point something million that year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, based on that, I would take Najee Harris. If you made it equal financially, I would take Le'Veon Bell.
Boy, I tell you, prime Le'Veon Bell was something to see, wasn't it?
Right. But the question is it worth a $12 million or $11 million, whatever it is, difference between the two? And I don't think it's worth that kind of money. I would take Bell straight up. You would take Bell even with the cap charge?
I think I would. I think I would take Bell.
All right. I mean, I would take him straight up, or if the numbers were closer, but the gap to justify the cost.
What was one of the knocks on Le'Veon Bell during his entire NFL career?
The lack of long speed, explosive plays. The same with Harris. Yes,
exactly. So if you're, they both seem to be more than competent pass catchers, right?
So why would you take Bell? How does Bell make up $10 million financially?
I'm walking myself back through this. Is what I'm doing here. If Bell wasn't the explosive play maker, and both give you, what you need out of the backfield as far as a pass catcher, and Najee should grow into an even better pass protector. If there was one area where Le'Veon Bell wins across the board, at least at this point, it's pass protection.
Yeah, I would say Bell better in pass pro. The Harris, I think, is good and going to get a whole lot better. And vision overall, Bell's vision was really unparalleled.
All right, so okay, after walking through that exercise there, and Najee being on a rookie salary, give me Najee.
All right, straight up though, 1-to-1, who would you take? I take Bell right now. If Bell was on the same contract as Najee Harris.
Oh yeah. I think I would. Yeah.
Same. Me too.
Let's see if we got one more here from Jackson JL. Looks like great pod, guys. First time emailer. My question is, why are there still game day inactives? He says, seems like with player safety being an issue, more available players seems like a good idea. All right. We get this kind of question every once in a while. It's a good question and all like that. Go back to, and somewhere on the site, there's Kevin Colbert talking about game day inactives and numbers of them and this, that, and the other. It all comes down to how the league views competitive balance in all this. And that's why there's X amount of inactives versus X amount of player rosters. It's one of the pushes to player safety in and competitive nature with this hold now, which seems to be here to stay with the elevations from the practice squad and stuff like that. So the reason they don't want all 53 guys or 55 guys in essence dressing is because of one team might be extremely healthier than the other. And that allows it gives the team that is fully healthier the competitive advantage on game day with a 53 or 55 man roster than the team that is suffering.
Exactly. I'm trying to see if I can find that quote really quick from Kevin Colbert a while back, but I just saw it a second ago. This was back in 2018, August 29th, 2018.
Who wrote
4 years
that?
ago. You did. You wrote it. So let's see here. He says, quote, again, I used to as well. This is referring to why are inactives even a thing. He says, until it was explained to me, and when you hear it explained, it makes great sense, because if I'm playing your team and we both have 53 guys and you have 5 guys injured and I only have 2, I'm going to have an advantage because I've got more healthy players than you do. And that's why they did that. They came up with 7 as a number that on average, okay, nobody's going to exceed that unless you're the Ravens. That was my commentary. So you go into a given game, you both have the same amount of players. And once it was explained to me that way, I accepted it. So again, it is just so there is no competitive advantage based solely off of health.
All right. That explains that. Real quick, Dr. Charles Berry on Twitter, CBizzle7 found the Bill Belichick 10-minute answer to the whole long snapper thing. I retweeted that out later last night there, and he also caused me to get sucked back down the rabbit hole and watch that 10-minute video again late last night there. So that's on my Twitter feed because we had referenced that Bill Belichick answer to the long snapper thing, I think, in the last show here. One last one from Todd Gensler as we wind things up here on Derek Watt. Can you please tell me the value of Derek Watt at this point? He says, I know he's a special teams ace, but with the amount of snaps he gets plus his cap hit, is he worth giving up an extra O-line or defensive back spot for? And what's his cap hit? It just surprises me he once again makes the roster. I do know you both predicted it. On a side note, kudos to you two. You were mentioned by name, Alex and Josh, by Stan Savran on Mark Madden's podcast for your research that you did on Malik Reed, I believe he says. I thought it was great to hear them give you kudos for your knowledge and breakdown of some of these not so well-known players. Good job. He says our money is well spent to support you guys, Todd. First of all, we obviously don't get a lot of recognition from the major media, or really more specifically the Pittsburgh local media. We've gone over that all before. They can't stand us because of the quality of the work that we do. One of the good guys is Stan Savran. Though he has Alex and Josh on now quite consistently. Dave Weekly over there in Virginia and his station have me on weekly and have for numerous years now.
Yeah, how long has that been? That's been a decade? It feels like about a decade, maybe?
Because even before then, they had me on quite a bit there as well there too. So yeah, I mean, there are, look, Stan Savran, I think Stan does a great job of being an old school media guy that practices really good objectivity. You know?
Yeah, Stan's a legend. I mean, he is one of just the titans of industry in Pittsburgh and the sports media world, and has been for decades. So Stan's fantastic. We're very thankful for his support and recognition and saying all those nice things and having us on and referencing us in other interviews. And so really, really appreciate Stan Savran so much.
And you have to know, to some degree, even though Stan's the godfather, maybe a lot of people don't question it. I bet he gets a couple remarks here and there. Why you got those Depot kids? Why you got them Depot boys on
that blog? Yeah,
that blog on there. But if you listen to Stan long enough, I mean, Stan is very objective, much in the way that we try to be, and all. And he's objective when it comes to his guest as well too. So I think he should be commended to that. So look, if you want one radio show to support, I would say support Stan Savran.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching Stan since I was a kid. I remember he would have on, like, there'd be a time during a year, like once a year, he would have like kids on his show as like their guest analysts. And I always wanted to be on there, and I was so mad when I wasn't picked. I was like, why is Billy on? Billy sucks. He doesn't always talk about, like, that was my whole thing. So I'm very grateful to kind of very much come full circle and finally be on with Stan. But he's fantastic. He's objective. He asks great questions. And again, he's just a Pittsburgh sports media legend. And
I think Josh Carney's, you're starting to see him do more interviews now. And I think at some point, Jonathan Heitzert is going to get, I think you're going to start seeing him show up as guest on podcasts, and specifically like draft podcast and all, because the work that I know, Tom Mead probably doesn't have the time, but Tom Mead, Tyler Wise. I mean, you want to talk about someone that can break down Owen Straley. I mean, you would talk about guys that can get deep into the film. We've got these guys now, and it's not shocking at all to see the success of, you and Josh and I once again, I think you'll start seeing Jonathan and maybe even Tyler start making more kind of niche related interview podcast appearances.
Yeah, got a great group of guys. Really excited for the season. Ton of great content coming your way. Analyzing the game from all different angles. Jonathan's working on his college scouting spotlights right now. I think he highlighted
those
the Northwestern
left
tackle. Yeah, really good primers for me, especially to get a better feel for things before we get into draft season next year.
Because we don't get to look. We watch college games on the weekend. Don't get me wrong, but we don't really get into the tape breakdown of these guys until the Senior Bowl. Really, to be quite honest with you, there, and to have guys like Jonathan now out there. That helps give us a little bit of a head start when we do get into this, because we already trust what he looks at and writes, and we can catch up a lot quicker on some of these guys. All right, Derek Watt, Alex.
Yeah, the question was, why is he here aside from the special teams value? Well, that's the answer, the special teams value of it all. And I imagine he probably won't be back after this year. But if you don't like it, just suffer through it for one more season. It'll probably be good after that. But it is for what he offers there.
Right. And he wants to know his cap number. His cap number is 4.713, a little more than 4.713 million. And everybody looks at that and wants to make the decision off that. Looking at a player's cap number is really silly overall. His cap number is that high because he restructured his contract. Okay. look at his salary. He is scheduled to earn $2.75 million in 2022. Now, if you were to cut him outright and replace him with a rookie on a 700, I mean, you would save roughly $2 million. What is that rookie going to give you on special teams versus what Derek Watt gives you? Also, would that rookie be able to contribute in some other area? Now, granted, $2.75 million for virtually just a special teams player is up there, but come talk to me if he gets a block punt or a forced fumble or has 12 special teams tackles. I mean, you're paying for hoping that that's what you're going to get out of this guy.
Right, which is not uncommon for good special teams players around the league. I mean, overall, was it a good contract Pittsburgh handed out to Derek Watt? No, not really. That money probably could have been better used somewhere else, but I'm not losing sleep over it. I know Warren Sharp is punching air right now for the comments that you just made, because I know he loves talking about Watt's cap charge.
Cap number, right. And all right, if you didn't want the cap number there, then why'd you restructure his contract? That's not his fault.
Right. It's not getting paid that much. Right. So anyway, that's all been well established. So again, I think Watt will probably be done after this year. So people that are mad about it, this is your last year. You have to be mad about it.
All right. Are you mad about that fantasy draft I put together last night in the,
I didn't look at your team one by one. Let me see. Who did you draft? I know you drafted. You took Pickens, didn't you? You stole Pickens from me, or was that you?
Yeah, I took Pickens later. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find what's your team.
Let me. I am the Vegas Footlongs, of course. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne. I'm the Vegas Jaguars, evidently.
Trevor, is that who you want to be? You want to be state your claim in Jacksonville?
No, I've been there. I've been there about nine too many times in my life.
You allowed back there?
Yeah, I don't know. I went to that Jaguars Steelers opening season game. What was it, 96 or 97? They lost that game, and Greg Lloyd tore up his knee in that game. So I'm probably shouldn't go back there from a Steelers fan perspective there. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Damian Pierce. I was going to make sure I snuck that little surprise in there. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Darren Waller, Kareem Hunt, the Rams defense, and Young Ho Koo. Koo. That's my starters.
Trevor Lawrence, your starting quarterback. That's a choice. I don't know about that.
I think he looked fantastic in that preseason game against the Steelers. I don't know about you. I mean, for preseason, I think he's turned the corner. I'm excited to see. What he does in 2022. Rattle off your scrub team.
You love smack talking. I mean, you get real charged up here. Yeah, it's okay. Kyler Murray, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Mike Williams, Rashard Bateman, Kyle Pitts, Damian Harris, 49ers defense, Dustin Hopkins. Yeah, so it's all right. Yeah, I'll be middle of the pack, I think.
All right, let us know who has the better fantasy team there. Anything else to add before we get out of here? Had fun in this show today. What you obviously going to be watching some college football this weekend?
Yeah, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Man, I can't wait for that one. That one's going to be the game to watch. All
right, anything else? Pretty decent show today, I think.
Yeah, good show. Again, we'll probably some more practice squad moves and additions for us to talk about here throughout the day and the weekend. We'll have you covered there, and we'll come back on Monday.
All right, I guess Wednesday will be the prediction show, huh?
Yeah, we should probably use Wednesday as the prediction show. Sure.
All right. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, upper right navigational bar. Alex and I will be back on Monday. Thank you for all the support in the month of August. It was a record month for us that way, and that includes the podcast as well too. Thank you for everybody that interacts with us on social media as well too. So until Monday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.